had even stronger earthquakes, 6 and 4, and even about 7 units. But all this happened in the sea, and accordingly the tremors were not so strongly felt. This earthquake was expected, and we have been shaken for 7 months. Maybe 2 or 3 times a week. It's just that these tremors are not always very strong. I was asleep at the moment when I heard the tremors and jumped out of the house, since I live on the lower floor. Of course, the upper floors danced more. I felt the tremors, and the house I was in was just grinding. I heard a sound like the walls were cracking. It feels like you're fainting or dizzy. In general, as we are now being told, earthquakes will continue for a very long time. For 2 or 3 weeks. Right now, I'm feeling the tremors again. In fact, here in Crete, all new houses can withstand up to 5 units on the Richter scale, while the old ones, which were built in the 19th and early 20th centuries, are not at all ready for such strong shocks. Therefore, in the village where this earthquake happened, the old houses naturally suffered. And now people are living on the street for the second day. The army arrived and built tents for them. There is, of course, help from people who sympathize with them. This village is not very far from us, and those who want to help them go and help. Cretans are very responsive people.
If you have witnessed climatic anomalies, send your videos to climate@allatra.tv. A strong deep-focus earthquake 7.3 was registered by the US Geological Survey on October 2nd in the Vanuatu-Fiji region. The hypocenter lay at the depth of more than 500 kilometers. The epicenter was located about 400 kilometers southwest of the city of Nadi in Fiji. It is estimated that more than 1.5 million people felt a slight tremor. This region is seismically active, where deep-focus earthquakes occur periodically, but such magnitude is quite rare. Later in the issue, the Allatra TV reporter from India sent a story about natural disasters in his country. We will also hear about Indonesia and Australia.
This is an Allatra TV reporter from India. On September 30, an 80-story building collapsed in the Indian city of Simla, Himachal Pradesh, due to the landslides caused by heavy rains. Debris damaged nearby houses. Fortunately, people were not injured as they were evacuated in time. September 29, torrential rain with hurricane-force winds hits the province of West Sumatra in Indonesia. The water depth in places reached 2 meters. This led to flood and dozens of landslides, as a result of which, unfortunately, there were casualties. There are also wounded. In total, about 300 families were affected. The disaster damaged more than 400 houses and dozens of vehicles. Extensive acreage was also flooded. On September 30, a tornado swept through Australia in the state of New South Wales, the destructive power of which is not typical for this region. Several people were injured, roofs of the houses were turned off, trees were uprooted and power lines poles were toppled. About 160 houses were left without electricity. At this time, storms passed in the south and east of the country with heavy rains and hail. Large hail were recorded in the South Queensland and northern New South Wales.
On the Lipari Islands in Italy, a stratovolcano called Volcano began to show activity. The temperature of the outgoing gases and the capacity of carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide in them have increased. Local microseismicity has also increased in recent weeks. On October 1st, the country's Civil Protection Department raised the volcano warning level to yellow. The last eruption of the volcano occurred about 130 years ago. At the same time, unprecedented downpours took place. place in another part of the country, which affected the northern regions. An AllAltra TV reporter from Italy will tell you more about what happened as well as about floods in the UK.
Hello, this is a reporter from AllAltra TV Italy. On October the 4th, 2021, heavy rains caused large-scale floods and landslides in northern Italy. The Environmental Protection Agency of Liguria reported a record 181 millimeters of precipitation in just 1 hour and more than 900 millimeters in 24 hours. In the province of Savona, more than 450 millimeters of precipitation fell in just 6 hours. This is a record for this area. This is almost 5 times higher than the month's worth of rain, and in some regions of Italy it is the annual norm. Due to the huge amount of precipitation, local rivers overflowed their banks. The first floors of buildings were flooded, streets were washed away, bridges were destroyed. Stadiums, markets, parks and other public places are closed. Traffic had to be stopped on several motorways. Railway communication was also disrupted. The city of Ventimiglia was actually flooded with water. In the regions of Liguria, Piedmont and Lombardy, a red level of weather danger was declared. On October the 5th, heavy rains led to flooding in some parts of the capital of Great Britain, London. In some places, more than 25 millimeters of precipitation fell in the city in just 1 hour. This amount usually falls in half a month. Some houses and buildings were flooded. The work of roads and railways, underground and ground transport was disrupted in the city.
Record rains also hit the regions of France. Meteorologist Guillaume Bosnica, commenting on the situation in Marseille, noted that this had never happened in early October in this region, and the record of 1973 had already been broken. At the beginning of October, an emergency climate situation was observed in several European countries. AllAltra TV reporters will continue on this topic.
Hello, this is an AllAltra TV reporter from Germany. On September 29, 2021, heavy rains caused flash flooding in Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia. These are the heaviest rains in the entire history of meteorological observations of the country. In the capital, a record amount of precipitation fell in just an hour, 96 millimeters. This indicator is almost a month's norm for this time of the year. More than 500 buildings, roads and underpasses were flooded. Several motorists were rescued after their cars got stuck in flood water. On the same day, a devastating tornado took place in the city of Kiel, northern Germany. Wind gusts reached 110 kilometers per hour. There are victims. The natural disaster destroyed houses and uprooted trees. Serious damage was caused to the city infrastructure and the pier. On October 4, 2021, heavy rains led to large-scale flooding in the south of France. The main blow of the natural force fell on the city of Marseille. More than 2 months' worth of precipitation fell here within a few hours. The streets of the city quickly turned into stormy rivers. Roads, cars, and the first floors of buildings were flooded. In the department of Bouches-du-Rhône, a red danger level was declared. Residents of these areas were urged not to leave their homes. Most educational institutions canceled all classes. Transportation was disrupted throughout the city. Many motorists needed the help of rescuers out of flooded cars. I have lived in this small idyllic town in the south of Germany for over 20 years, and the climate has not spared us either. The recent winters were very snowy, and the snow was very heavy and wet, so that buildings were really in danger of collapsing. Last summer was extremely dry, but this summer is extremely rainy, so many private homes were affected. The basements were flooded. A clinic in our city was literally underwater. And what I personally noticed is that the wind is getting more aggressive, stronger, and much more frequent. And all this shows us that we can no longer close our eyes to what is coming. We have to be aware of this danger. We have to be aware of this danger before it becomes too late, and understand that we can still do something. And this something lies in the unification of people. And on the platform allatraunites.com, people are already uniting around one goal: to build a society based on humanity, a society where everyone is helped, even if this everyone is just one person, or a family, or maybe a whole country. And if you care about your future and the future of your children, join us. Because without you, humanity is not complete. Without you, society is not united. And without you, all of us combined can do 1,000 times less than with you. Thank you.
Hello, this is an ALLATRA TV reporter from Sochi. On October the 4th, 2021, a powerful downpour caused flooding in the Russian city of Sochi and nearby communities. The city received almost a month's worth of rain. Streets and homes were flooded. Cars were swept away by streams of water. In the village of Sergeypolye, a landslide descended, damaging 20 houses. The ground cracked, fences were bent, and houses went along with the foundation. About 30 people were forced to leave their homes. The federal road was also damaged. Due to heavy rains, the water level in the Lu and Bur rivers rose. Other flooded towns included Moldavka, Adler, Veselaya, and the Russian Bhezhen border. Fortunately, no one was injured. On the same day, incessant rains flooded streets of the Georgian city of Batumi. Traffic was blocked and residential and commercial buildings were flooded. On my own behalf, I would like to add that in reality, only the unification of people into a single universal family can help overcome the climate crisis. And unification is possible thanks to the Creative Society project, which is being implemented by millions of people around the world.
The worst drought in recent decades in southern Angola continues for the second year in a row. Fields and pastures are devastated, food supplies are depleted. According to a recent analysis of complex phase classification, more than 1,300,000 of people in the southwestern provinces of Cunene, Huila and Namib face severe hunger. These regions depend on agriculture, and crop failures have greatly affected the provision of food to the population. The main reason for the current drought is the low amount of precipitation during the previous few rainy seasons, which run from November to April. In the consumer format of society, we often face the fact that with the availability of resources, excessive consumption and overproduction, part of the world's population is deprived of the basic provision. Although, in fact, everything is simple. In order to solve such issues, it is necessary to unite all people in one goal, to ensure and guarantee the value of each human's life. About the consequences of the cataclysms the residents of Oman, Iran and China faced, see further in the story.
On October the 1st, an abnormal hail fell in the city of Dalian in northeast China. Hailstones the size of a chicken egg easily pierced shop and car windows. Tens of thousands of cars and many buildings were damaged. The local airport was also affected by the rampant disaster. Some flights had to be cancelled or postponed as the planes were damaged by hail. Immediately after the abnormal hail, heavy rain fell, causing local flooding in some areas of the city. The next day, on September the 2nd, a devastating tornado hit Yantai City district in Shandong province. It was caused by the same supercell that caused the abnormal hail in Dalian. A tornado swept through the city center, destroying buildings and overturning cars. Significant damage was done to agriculture. On October 3, 2021, the capital of Oman, Muscat, was hit by tropical storm Shaheen. Unfortunately, there were casualties and one person went missing. The wind at a speed of more than 120 km per hour threw waves higher than 12 meters on the coast, tore off the roofs of houses and felled trees. And torrential rains led to flash flooding and landslides. Roads were blocked, electricity was cut off, and flights at the international airport were suspended. Evacuation of people from rapidly flooded areas was carried out. About 3,000 people were placed in temporary shelters. On the same day, the coast of Sistan and Balochistan, provinces in Iran, was also affected by the Shaheen storm. There are casualties. The natural disaster damaged infrastructure and roads.
Now on the map of climate disasters, only those events that we talked about in the issue today are indicated. This clearly shows that they affect almost all continents. The increase and synchronization of natural disasters is not a random process, but a consequence of the cyclical astronomical impact on our planet. Humanity cannot influence it at the current stage of development. But inaction also leads to the loss of time, which is so necessary now to consolidate the efforts of all people on the planet to get through this difficult period.
Excerpt from the International Conference Global Crisis. This already affects everyone.
The Earth is not in resonance with the Sun right now. The most important thing for us is the Sun. We interact with it and it protects us, and now during the solar minimum the Sun's protection has sunk. The beating of the core creates microvibrations, a shock wave. Microseismic manifestations increase, vibrations increase. There is a ridge of 1,000 microvibrations in half an hour. Because of them, microcracks are formed in the lithosphere. The pressure inside the planet increases, the magma rises higher and higher, and now we see that heating of the lithosphere is higher than it was. Precisely that very heating that melts the glaciers of Antarctica and Greenland from the bottom up. The same heating that warms the oceans, the same rise of magma is now increasing volcanic activity.
What is so interesting about this graph? What's interesting is that until the middle of 2003, we observed the slight drop in seismic noise readings around the globe. But since 2003, it started to increase. From 2003 to the present time, there has been a steady increase in synchronicity correlation and synchronization of global seismic noise. Why is this important? The fact is that synchronization, the phenomenon of noise synchronization, in a complex system is a sign of approaching drastic change in its properties. The approaching earthquakes can be determined by synchronization of seismic oscillations in the area where the earthquakes are expected. But it's not just synchronization, it's also the noise itself. Before an earthquake it becomes simpler, but say more noise-like, so to say uniform.
I think climate change is the elephant in the room. It's going to, it is already unraveling very, very rapidly. It's not something which is going to happen in the future. It is already happening. We are literally like you must be familiar with the story of the frog and the water. So the story is this, that essentially you put a frog in hot water, it immediately jumps out because it knows that the water is hot. But you put the frog in water which is at room temperature and you gradually boil it, it's enjoying the temperature of the water, and by the time the frog realizes that the water is dangerous, it's too late. It doesn't have the ability to jump out. And I think that we are very close to that boiling point now. And it would take all the ingenuity of man to pull us away from the brink of the abyss.
It is in our own power not only to overcome the coming misfortunes, but also to build a true civilization, a civilization of peace and goodness for the prosperity of future generations. Everything depends on our choice, on the dominant priorities in our heads, and on our fortitude. However, we are human beings first and foremost, and we can each reach out to each other and unite in creative interaction now. Then we will endure, we will survive, we will be reborn. We can create a better society peacefully without any victims or losses. We can create, not destroy.
Watch the full version of the conference, Global Crisis, This Already Affects Everyone, on alatra.tv and alatraunites.com websites.
Society is in each of us. We all create the conditions in which we live by our actions. And every person can do a lot to make the whole world know the truth about the real state of our planet. Dear viewers, we invite you to take part in the preparation of international online events within the framework of the conference Global Crisis – Time for the Truth, which will take place on December 4, 2021. You can invite and record online interviews with experts from around the world, scientists, experts in the field of climate, ecology, migration, as well as people who have become refugees. After all, this is a unique opportunity to address millions of people from more than 180 countries of the world on the platform of ALLATRA IPM and share their opinions about the situation on the planet. Thus, everyone can make a huge contribution to the salvation of all humankind. For more information, please contact us by email climate@allatraunites.com. Having informed all people now about the real causes of climate change and the state of the planet, we can still have time to unite and build a creative society. This will make it possible to direct all our human potential, all our resources into one goal: to survival and the possibility of development of each person and society.
If we speak of the creative society, billions of years open up ahead, then, pardon me, we can find a solution. As a single human civilization, we will find a solution to how we can not only stop climate events, but never depend on them again. I mean, we will be able to gain power over nature. Moreover, not just over climate, but over everything that this world is composed of. This is really so. And we do have these opportunities. We have everything except one thing: an elementary understanding that we are people and not consumers, not animals. That's the point. And that's the main difference. Well, if even this point isn't clear, then we will try to explain it somehow differently. You can write to us, tell us what is unclear, and we will explain. We will repeat and tell many thousand times. Why? Because we are people and we want to live. And it is better to talk about these 10,000 times and survive than to remain misunderstood and stay in the consumerist format during this very tough period of our time, when there is a superposition of the 24,000-year cycle on our very sick planet, which we have environmentally exhausted. our only, I emphasize, our only planet.
Share information about the conference Global Crisis. This already affects everyone. Invite scientists and experts for interviews. Invite all people to the conference Global Crisis, Time for the Truth, which will take place on December 4, 2021. And we will be able to implement a creative society together and ensure the main value, human life. You can learn more about the Creative Society on the website allatraunites.com. Thank you for being with us today and see you soon on ALLATRA TV.